Discover 7 spine-chilling hauntings exposed by rain, terrifying tales to keep you awake forever. It was a stormy night in Maplewood when Claire felt the weight of darkness settle over her home. The rain hammered against the windows like manic fingers clutching at the glass. An unsettling chill lingered in the air as jagged flashes of lightning illuminated shadows lurking in the corners of her attic. Claire, a single mother with 2 little ones asleep in the next room, had never been more alone. The storm echoed her fears, whispering secrets long buried in her past. In the eerie quiet between thunderclaps, she sought refuge in the attic, a crammed space filled with fragments of her late husband, Jake, a haunted scrapbook of memories. Digging through the clutter, her fingertips brushed against a worn leather journal. It was heavy, almost hot to the touch, daring her to pry open its dusty cover. As she began to read, horror seeped into her bones. The stories unfurling were terrifying enough to send shivers racing down her spine. The pages detailed hauntings that crept through darkness, shadows that watched and waited to strike when the skies turned gray, invoking a primal fear that echoed through generations. With each word, her heart raced. She could almost hear the chilling laughter of children join the dance of the haunted. They were tales of not just lost spirits but of murky secrets lingering like fog over her neighborhood. After what felt like an eternity, Claire slid the journal back into the floorboards, her pulse echoing hollowly in her ears. That night, as she lay in bed, the soft moans of the wind twisted into haunting whispers that wrapped around her, promising they'd return when the skies wept again. She wrote it off as anxiety, a mind playing tricks in a moment of weakness, but by dawn, the shadows had transformed. They lingered just beyond her window, their twisted forms morphing under the dim street lamp light. Nightmares started creeping into her waking hours. Every glance outside turned her stomach as Jake's ghostly face flickered through the puddles, sorrowful and full of warning. What did he want? Was it to protect her or to expose her to even greater dangers lurking in the shadows? Her neighbors, once chatty and bright, swept into a murky silence as she dared to mention the spectral happenings. She felt at their eyes, hollow and knowing, slicing through the comfort of their shared struggle. It became painfully clear they harbored their own ghosts, the charm of Mr. Donovan, their so-called leader, who played savior, yet his smile held a predator's hunger. His facade terrified her. Why did he seem to know more than he let on? Claire's thoughts raced with dread. The storm continued to rage outside, each bolt of lightning punctuating the uneasy silence in her home. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the rain poured harder, washing away the innocent laughter from the streets, Claire took a deep breath. She could feel it, a looming threat folding in around them. Her motherly instincts screeched to life, burning brightly in the darkness. How could she protect the children from something no one would acknowledge? A feverish plan unfolded in her mind. She needed to confront Mr. Donovan. Fear twisted in her gut as she awaited his response. Would it be help, or would his smile betray a more sinister truth? The clock sounded, and as another gale roared, shadows loomed closer, waiting for her to break the fragile barrier between the ordinary and the unimaginable. Claire realized with a shudder, some spirits don't just haunt the past, they walk among the living, disguising themselves in smiles, ready to trap her completely. The storm raged on, thrashing against the world outside like a wild beast trying to claw its way in. Claire couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her from just beyond the veil of rain. She shuddered and paced the dimly lit living room, her heart racing. The whispers had grown louder since she read from the journal, and now the shadows seemed to shift and pulse like a living thing. With each rumble of thunder, Claire glanced nervously toward the front door, nervous anticipation coiling in her stomach. The image of Mr. Donovan's unsettling smile haunted her, a reminder of the danger lurking beneath his charm. He knew things. Things that made her question everything about the community they lived in. Each clap of thunder made her wonder if she would hear a knock on her door, a visitor bringing news or doom. Gathering her courage, she grabbed her coat and stepped outside, the rain soaking her nearly instantaneously. She pulled the collar up against the storm's chill and steeled herself for confrontation. It felt like stepping into the mouth of a wolf. Should she turn back? Her instincts warned her, but the children were sleeping innocent souls caught in a web she could not untangle. She couldn't let fear paralyze her. The town was abandoned. Puddles reflected the diffuse light, creating ghostly pools beneath scattered lampposts. Their glow flickered like dying embers, casting ominous shadows into tangled bushes and bare trees. Every rustle sounded like a whisper, every drip of water a warning. She made her way down the street toward Mr. Donovan's house, a place that once felt welcoming but now loomed over her like a foreboding specter. As she reached the curving driveway, she took a deep breath, preparing herself for the encounter. She knocked, the sound swallowed by the storm. What if she was too late? What if the other mothers warned Donovan, huddled in safety, oblivious to the danger bubbling below their quiet surface? The final knock echoed, sounding hollow and ghostly. A crack echoed from within the house, and she felt her heart leap into her throat. Mr. Donovan appeared, drenched but unbothered, his warm smile almost mocking amidst the raging storm. The malice in his eyes was difficult to mask, and it sent icy fingers running down Claire's spine. "Claire, how thoughtful of you to stop by," he said, his voice honeyed but sharp. The unspoken threat wrapped around them like a noose. "What do you want from us?" she demanded, anger rising in her chest, fighting through the fear. He chuckled, low and dark, gesturing for her to step inside. "Oh, Claire. It's not what I want, it's what you need to understand." He leaned closer, his face mere inches from hers. "Things are changing in Maplewood. You're not prepared for what's to come." Heavy silence broke as another bolt of lightning lit up the sky, making shadows leap wildly along the walls of his home. Claire held her breath, grappling with a surge of dread. "What are you saying?" "Your fears, they're not unfounded," he whispered, a menacing glint in his eye. "The spirits want to play, and they never truly leave. You'll need to choose a side, Claire, or they will consume you whole." Stumbling back, Claire turned to flee, her mind racing. She needed to protect the children. She needed to uncover the truth before it was too late. The shadows and whispers encroached, seeking to pull her under as she sprinted back home, panic driving every desperate step, but the rain it began to slow. Not a soothing drizzle, but a heavy mist that hung in the air like a ghostly blanket. Claire skidded to a stop, heart pounding, confusion swirling. They were outside, walking into the mist, children giggling, their faces pale and distorted. "Mommy, join us." They beckoned, voices sticky sweet yet laced with malice. As chills danced up her arms, Claire realized the fog was shifting and that something horrible was brewing. It was not over. Not yet. What had she unleashed? What price would she have to pay to protect her family? The storm was only the beginning. Claire blinked, trying to dispel the fog in front of her. The laughter twisted in her ears, sounding joyous, but the shadows in her children's eyes held something darker. The mist thickened, swirling like a tangible entity, as if it were alive. She felt lightheaded, the world tipping on its axis. "Mommy?" One child echoed, but the voice didn't sound quite right. The innocent tone was tainted, layered with something hollow. "Stay away from the mist," she shouted, a mix of terror and urgency overtaking her. She stumbled backward, her eyes darting around, searching for an escape. The children took a step closer, their movements almost synchronized, as if they danced to a rhythm only they could hear. Claire's heart slammed against her ribs. She wanted to reach out and grab them, but the urge to protect them from the shadows held tightly to her chest. "Mommy, come play with us," they urged again, a chorus of sweet yet sinister melody that sent her pulse racing. "It's so much fun." She turned, fear surging through her veins. The wind whistled past her, carrying distant laughter, as if inviting her deeper into the mist. It tugged at her, luring her in with false promises. The house loomed behind her, a dark refuge. Taking a chance, Claire pivoted and sprinted back inside, slamming the door behind her. The echoes of laughter faded, replaced with the howl of the storm, but she could still feel the pulse of the mist against the wood. Hungry and waiting, lounging in the dim light of her living room, she pressed her back against the door. Her breathing was ragged, and panic coursed through her. What had Mr. Donovan meant? What did the spirits want? The journal lay on the coffee table, taunting her. Its pages held secrets that had been woven into the fabric of Maplewood. Questions swirled in her mind like the storm outside. She took a deep breath and flipped it open, determined to find answers. The handwritten words blurred before her eyes, flickering with shadows as if the pages were imbued with their own life. The storm pounded around her, thunder clapping in frantic bursts. Willing spirits, a choice will be made, she read, the words burning with ominous clarity. Elders summon in moonlight, the innocent must decide. Her throat tightened. Innocent? Were her children part of this game? She could just see those distorted faces in the mist, beckoning playfully while lurking behind the happy facade. Suddenly, a low thud reverberated through the house. Claire froze. It came from upstairs. She strained to listen, heart racing, breath held tight in her chest. Another sound, a soft shuffle, drifted closer. The children were asleep, they had to be. Claire, a voice called from the darkness above, high-pitched but distinctly not her children's. Terror gripped her like a vice. She let go of the door, heart slamming in her chest as she edged toward the staircase. The shadows hugged the corners, narrowing her vision. With each step she took toward the source, ice crept along her spine. She reached the top of the stairs and peered down the dark hallway, where a soft light flickered. "Mommy!" The voice again, chilling her. It was close. Yet, it didn't sound like either of her children. What was up there? A surge of dread pulled at her instincts, warning her to turn back, to run. But Claire knew she had to confront it. She took a shaky step forward. Then another, closer towards the light and the sound of that haunting call. Was it safety? Or a siren's song leading her to darkness? Just then, the floor creaked ominously behind her, and she spun, breath hitching. This time it wasn't just a voice. It was many whispering, chanting, as shadows began to swarm. Claire stood frozen, heart pounding as shadows morphed before her. What were they? What awaited her in those haunting whispers? The storm outside seemed to fight back, crackling angrily as the chilling truth loomed closer. What awaited her in the dark? The choices were coming, and she feared she wouldn't be able to escape them. Claire's breath quickened as she turned back towards the hallway, the whispering shadows drawing closer. Her instincts screamed at her to retreat, to lock herself away from whatever sinister presence had invaded her home. But her feet felt glued to the floor, her heart racing wildly against her ribcage. "Mommy!" the voice purred again, a sickly sweet tone permeating the thick air. It echoed off the walls, circling around her. Each syllable twisted inside her mind, filling her with dread. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to move. Claire stepped forward into the dim light, her pulse thrumming in her ears. The air felt electric, tinged with something unnatural. Uneasiness settled like a heavy shadow across her shoulders, pressing down on her. The hallway stretched before her, illuminated by a sliver of light spilling from the guest room at the end. As Claire approached, the whispers grew more coherent, merging into a haunting chant. "Choose, choose, choose. Who are you?" she called out, her voice wavering. The shadows surrounding her twisted strangely, almost as if they were listening, circling her like predatory animals. Suddenly, the chill in the air morphed into a weighty silence. A tiny giggle escaped the dark, sending her heart into a frenzy. "Come play, Mommy," it mocked. "It's so much fun." Shivers danced across her skin. They were imitating her children, trying to lure her. The thought twisted her stomach, flooding her with confusion and panic. She staggered backward, bracing against the wall. The energy from the storm rattled the windows, sending shards of light through the darkness. "Stop it!" she yelled, her voice firm but shaky. "You're not my children." Not yet. The echo of laughter broke into 100 pieces, each one filling her with more dread. It was unsettling, the way it merged with the sounds of the storm outside. Claire blinked, searching for clarity, trying to ignore the impossibility of her situation. Her only goal was to reach the guest room, but the shadows were a dark tide, blocking her way, inching closer with each heartbeat. A sudden crash boomed through the house, jarring Claire further. Scrambling, she pivoted towards the source of the sound, hoping it might provide an escape. The living room lay behind her, now an intricate web of ebon tendrils stretching from the corners, all reaching out to her. The guest room door swung open slightly, a light spilling out and casting a glow across the hallway. Something beckoned her, promising safety. Yet something in the dim light felt wrong, too inviting in a way that made her instinct scream to avoid it. "Mommy!" The voice came again, this time shrill, like nails on a chalkboard. It was overwhelming, dread coiling tightly around her heart. The whispers morphed into a cacophony of voices layered upon one another. "Decide. Decide now. Which will it be?" Each word sounded like her children but twisted, as if corrupted with the essence of the shadows themselves. "Leave them alone!" Claire cried, a surge of desperate resolve flooding her veins. And then, through the chaos, she felt a pull from the guest room warmth, a flicker of hope. What if there was a way out? What if the light meant she could save them? With steely determination, Claire forced her way forward, pushing past the gnawing shadows. As she reached the glowing doorway, a chilling gust surged behind her, cold and biting, threatening to take her back into the dark, but in that glowing threshold was a choice: the last embrace of possible safety or further descent into darkness. Would she take the final step? Would she choose to confront whatever lay beyond that door? Or would the shadows wrap around her like a vice, sealing her fate with the whispering voices? "Mommy, it's time!" The invitation drifted through the air, electrifying and insidious. Claire stood at the precipice of a decision that felt both impossible and terrifying. What would she discover on the other side? The light flickered ominously, shadows stretching and grasping, and then, silence fell again, heavy with expectation. The final bell tolled, and she knew. Whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. Claire hesitated, her mind racing. The aura around the guest room felt like a snare, tangible and suffocating. Her breath caught in her throat as she recalled the echoing voices that had haunted her, each twisted word tugging at the edges of her sanity. They whispered tantalizing promises, but promises were meaningless when they stank of malice. Steeling herself against the gnawing fear, she took a step into the light, the glow wrapping around her like a desperate, clutching hand. The brightness pinned her momentarily, illuminating the nightmare that lay inside. Was it safer in there, or just another trap? As she crossed the threshold, the air vibrated with a low hum. Claire's heart thudded out a panic rhythm, and she fought the urge to retreat. Within the sanctuary of the room, she scanned the space, expecting to find her children innocent and vulnerable. Instead, a familiar dread washed over her. The walls were painted with grotesque shapes that twisted and writhed, forming faces that leered with malicious glee. Silence collapsed around her, heavy and oppressive. But then, a soft giggle pulled her attention. It came from a bed draped in shadows, the bedding tousled as if someone had just risen from it. "Mommy!" A small figure stirred beneath the covers. Claire's heart fluttered with hope. "Mommy, come closer." She edged towards the bed, the comforter damp and cold beneath her fingertips. With each step, the giggles morphed into something unholy, layered with layers of mockery, layering over Claire like a warm shroud. It felt wrong, so utterly wrong. "Where are my babies?" Claire called out, her voice strained. "Where's Emily? Where's Jake?" "Right here." The voice squeaked, high-pitched as it emerged from beneath the sheets. A head popped out, a mass of golden curls framing a face that was disturbingly familiar yet distinctly off. Its features were twisted, the eyes wide and gleaming, but lacking the warmth she knew. "Mommy, I've been waiting." The creature chirped, grinning too widely, a coil of shadows framing its small body. No, panic ratcheted up as ice trickled through her veins. This was not her daughter. Not even close, from the corner of her eye, a dark form slithered across the floor. Shadows flocked to the figure emerging behind her. Claire turned, and what she saw made bile rise in her throat. There stood another child, a boy, ghastly pale with draping shadows that held an unholy grip on him. His lips curled in a mockery of a smile, echoing the same sickening joy. "Come play with us, Mommy, forever." The room spun. Claire stumbled backward, her footing unsteady on the shadowy ground. The familiar sounds of her children's laughter twisted into a cacophony of cruel taunts, resonating within her. "Decide, Mommy. Who do you choose?" Claire's breath came in gasps, her mind racing. The glowing light around her flickered and waned, almost like a mocking wink, as if it knew the truth she didn't want to face. She fought the urge to break down, to give in to despair. There was only one way out. "No!" She screamed, and with a ferocity fueled by desperation, she lunged back toward the door, but a shadow surged past her, blocking her escape. The walls pulsed as if alive, clawing at her sanity. "Choose now, Mommy. You must choose. You can't live without us." The shadowy whispers wrapped around her neck, constricting, squeezing, suffocating. "Let me go!" she cried, the noise echoing into silence, her heart threatening to burst from her chest. Would she succumb to the darkness that craved her, or would she fight to save what little remained of her true children? As the shadows twisted and writhed, Claire faced the decision weighing heavily in her heart. She had to break free. But suddenly, the light dimmed to a pinprick, and with it, the overwhelming force drew closer, threatening to swallow her whole. What would she do? Would she attempt to claw her way back to salvation, or let the darkness consume her entirely? In that moment, hope shattered into pieces. And just then, one last whisper echoed from the depths of hellish laughter. "Choose now or become one of us." The shadows surged forward, and Claire felt her grip on reality slip away. Claire's breath left her in a sharp gasp, filling the air with warmth before it turned frigid. The shadows advanced, a roiling mass that seemed to open its maw, hungry to devour her whole. She was caught in a nightmare, a living tapestry of dread woven tighter with each fleeting second. The twisted forms of the creatures that wore her children's faces approached, their laughter echoing like taunts in a desperate symphony. "Choose, Mommy." They chimed, the words splintering her already frayed mind. We've waited so long. Time stretched as Claire's mind raced. She felt trapped in a stalemate of anguish and desperation. The light had all but faded, and what remained of it clung desperately to the corners, as if the shadows were actively siphoning it away. Swallowing hard, Claire fought against the encroaching darkness. "Emily! Jake!" she screamed, her voice breaking. "Please answer me." But only the laughing shadows remained, gaping grins on their faces that turned her blood to ice. Each giggle felt like a knife, twisting deeper into her heart. Claire stumbled back again, caught between the looming choice and the grasping dread. Fear morphed into rage, igniting within her a fierce resolve. "No!" she shouted. "You're not them." Roaring unearthly laughter filled the room, shaking the walls. "But we are. We are everything you lost. Forever." Before she could react, a figure dove from the darkness, coiling around her ankles like a snake. The cold touch sent spasms of terror shooting through Claire's body. She kicked and twisted, desperate to free herself. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she lunged for the door, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Get away from me!" she howled. Just as she was about to reach the door handle, it slammed shut with a reverberating crack, sending her crashing to the floor. The whispers intensified, spiraling around her head, choking and suffocating. "Don't you want to be with us?" The boy's voice echoed, innocence twisted on the edge of madness. "We can be a family again." Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks, burning as they mingled with the terror pooling inside her. Every memory of her children giggles, cuddles, their small hands fitting perfectly within hers collided with the horror looming over her. She had fought so hard to keep them safe, to never lose them again, and now they were asking her to choose. But at what cost? Choose. The creatures insisted, pushing forward, transformational shadows stretching and shifting. They beckoned her, their false smiles a grotesque parody of joy. Light flickered through the darkness, momentary shards like knives in her heart. Claire cried out again, the pain of indecision weighing heavily on her spirit. I refuse to choose. I want my real children back. For a moment, the laughter ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that felt heavier than the weight of despair. The shadows halted, pulling back just enough for her to breathe. And in that stillness, Claire felt a flicker of warmth, a memory of brighter days. I will not let you take me, she shouted defiantly. The pain surged, and with one determined push, she hurled herself toward the door again, body slamming against it, but instead of giving way, the ground beneath her trembled. The walls twisted, and vibrations echoed like thunder. Shadows swelled, pushing back as the room began to warp. Chilling whispers crept back, seeping into her psyche with promises of power and family. Sacrifice yourself, Mommy. We can be whole again. A pulse of urgency flooded through Claire, igniting a fire within her. She could hear their cries, sweet and innocent, buried beneath the monstrous rapaciousness. And with that resolve, she spat back, I will find you. I will save you. The room roared to life, shadows thrashing as if in retaliation, the walls threatening to cave in. They pulled at her, but Claire clung to her fierce determination, wrestling against their grip. You can't take me. Not now. Just then, a blinding flash surged through the opening, illuminating the room with a brilliance that overpowered the darkness. And as the shadows shrank back, the sound of desperate, fading laughter lingered, but in that moment of light, something broke inside her, something vital, a tether snapping. And just as the light surged, a new, chilling scream pierced through the fulminous clarity, echoing in the distance. Mommy! The anguished cry imploded into a silence that felt deeper, darker, more intimate than even the shadows. What had she done? Was salvation still possible, or had she just sealed her own fate? Claire's heart raced as the shadows began to coalesce around her once more. Would she ever escape their unyielding grasp, or was she destined to become part of their malignant embrace? The silence held too much power, and the new scream wove through her, igniting a terror that even the light couldn't extinguish. What had she awakened? The darkness pulsated, growing heavier as Claire fought for breath. Wave after wave of shadow surged toward her, biting into her resolve. She could feel them pressing against her skin, slick and cold, reminding her of what she had lost. With each heartbeat, the phantom laughter infiltrated her mind, its echoes feeling like chains wrapping tightly around her thoughts. Mommy! Mommy! The voices called once more, a haunting mix of agony and allure. They tantalized her, weaving memories of warmth and love into a chilling reminder of what was now twisted into a nightmare. In the thrumming silence, she clenched her fists, nails digging into skin, trying to pin the reality of what was happening within her own body, a breathless battle. Suddenly, as if sensing the weight of her heart, the shadows shifted. They transformed into grotesque mockeries of the faces she adored. Emily. Jake, their familiar features now grotesquely distorted, grinning wide with an energy that felt monstrous. A raspy whisper threaded through the air, brushing against her ear like ice, join us, Mommy, it's safer here. Get away. Claire shrieked, the outburst shattering her silence like glass. She spun around, her eyes wide and frantic, searching for an escape that felt impossibly hidden within the suffocating gloom. Her legs turned to lead, but she pushed forward, clawing at the air, desperate to break free. With a thundering heart, Claire stumbled back, feeling the weight of their eyes watching her, piercings of hope and despair. You're not them. She cried again, clutching her heart as the shadows surged once more, almost as if tasting her anguish, but the whispers rose again. But we are, Mommy. We're all that remains. In a heart-wrenching instant, the familiar sounds of childhood laughter morphed into distorted wails, clawing at her sanity. Each shrill cry sliced into her soul, unraveling her threads of courage. Just as despair clasped her throat, she saw her children's forms flickering between the shadows, weaving in and out like fabric in a storm. "Help us!" they screamed, and Claire felt the chains of her heart tighten, an unfathomable law stretching between them. Driven by a primal instinct to protect, she surged forward. "I will find you. I will save you." She lunged again, aware that every ounce of her being was on the brink, suspended between the shadows and the fading light. "There's a way." A voice whispered from the depths, emerging like a flicker of hope. "Embrace the darkness." The shadows coiled tighter, whispering promises of strength through the anguish. Claire felt it tug at her, the temptation to surrender, to let go. The offer crept beneath her skin, caressing her spirit tenderly, like shadows wrapping around her soul. But with a final gasp of rebellion, she turned her back on the deceit. "No!" she shouted, forcing her way through the pressure, the air thick with dread. And with renewed determination, she found her footing, her footsteps echoing as they broke against the oppressive weight of despair. But when she looked back, the children were gone. Only shadows remained, swirling about her feet like smoke. "Mommy, mommy," their voices faded into the darkness, rolling away into an unsettling silence. For a moment, Claire felt the air shift, a slithering cold wrapping around her neck like a serpent. The laughter returned, but now it was lower, more sinister, a symphony of malice. The walls of the room quaked, reminding her that she had only angered whatever was playing this cruel game. Suddenly, a cacophony erupted, the sound spiraled around her as if mocking her struggle. Claire recoiled as the ground beneath her cracked, fissures splintering open like the mouth of a beast. A wretched scream pierced through, slicing through the chaos. It was a sound that chilled her to the bone. Was it another cry for help? Or a warning? As the ground continued to tremble, Claire was thrown to the ground. Above her, shapes twisted and turned, and the world she knew began fading into the abyss, pulling her under like a dark tide, and in that moment, just before she disappeared, the last whisper echoed in her mind, desperately urging, "Mommy, you must choose. Was this the end, or merely the beginning of something far worse?" Every nerve in Claire's body pulsed with desperation as darkness enveloped her, its suffocating weight pushing her deeper into an abyss of paralyzing fear. She gasped, lungs burning, feeling the cool breath of shadows curling around her like a lover's embrace turned sinister. But she couldn't lose herself, not again. She fought to her feet, heart pounding wildly, each beat a desperate drum echoing through the chaos. Claire's eyes darted around, desperately searching for any trace of her children, the flickering mirage of their forms still etched in her mind. "Emily! Jake!" she cried, her voice lost in the tumult, swallowed by the swirling shadows that wrapped around her, coiling tighter as if feeding on her desperation. And then, through the chaos, she heard it again, their laughter. It chimed through the darkness like a haunting melody. But there was something off about it, a cackle hidden beneath their innocent joy. A cold shiver ran down her spine. It was no longer the laughter of her children, it was a sound of mockery. The ground beneath her trembled again, fissures cracking like scars through the earth. In the distance, something twisted and dark writhed in the shadows, pulsing with a life of its own. Claire stumbled back, terror coiling like a viper in her gut. "What do you want?" she shouted, more to herself than the shadows. The air was thick and oily, an invisible weight that pressed against her, filling her throat with dread. Her heart raced, thrumming a rhythm of fight or flight, and for a moment, she teetered on the edge of madness. "Everything," a voice purred, smooth and guttural, wrapping around her like fog. "You sought us out, and now we will take what is ours." The shadows around her flickered, morphing into twisted figures resembling her children, faces frozen in smiles that belied the terror she felt. "Mommy, Simon. Join us." They beckoned, and Claire felt her heart fracture. "No. I'm not giving in." She stumbled backward yet again, each step a fierce rebellion. But the ground beneath her feet began to tilt, and she felt herself slipping, losing her grip on the fragile reality she clung to. In a final surge of will, Claire reached into the depths of her memory. I'm their mother. I loved them. She screamed, as if her love was a shield against the encroaching shadows. The dark entities recoiled momentarily, flickering as if caught in the light of her defiance. But the pause was fleeting, they surged forward, hungry and insatiable. The darkness engulfed her, icy fingers gripping her heart, squeezing tighter, as if questioning her very existence. Your love cannot save you, they hissed, a chorus of disdain reverberating through the air. Claire felt her sanity tremble like glass, fragile and thin. And then, amid the terror, a lighthouse flickered in her mind, a memory of safety. Claire clung to it like a lifeline, pulling on the warmth of love, igniting a fire within. I will find you, my babies. She shouted, the word a lifeboat to navigate through the storm of despair. But as her resolve strengthened, the ground shook violently again, splitting the earth apart beneath her. The shadows screeched, an unholy wail that crashed over her like a tidal wave. She stumbled, her vision spinning, and just as she braced for an imminent fall, she felt a pull, as if those she sought were reaching for her from the other side of the void. Mommy, save us! Her heart skipped, and a terror surged anew. In that moment of apparent hope, something monstrous loomed behind her, an ominous presence that dripped with malice. The last fragments of her memory flickered around her, the once endearing faces of her children now warped with a twisted hunger. Facing the approaching darkness, Claire was left with one choice. Would she dare to embrace that which sought to consume her, or would she confront the abyss with the strength of motherhood pulsing through her veins? Time stretched, dread coiling around her, heart pounding like the wings of a trapped bird, and then complete darkness. Mommy, choose. As the shadows closed in, Claire braced herself for whatever lay ahead, her fate hanging in a desperate balance. The question loomed heavy in the void: what was the price of love amidst the torment? The abyss whispered with hunger, and Claire's answer trembled on the edge of reality. The darkness held her tightly, an all-consuming cloak that pushed her deeper into an unfathomable blackness. It was a thick fog wrapping around her body as if preparing to suffocate her spirit. Claire felt her heartbeat in her ears, louder, wilder, a panic-stricken drum urging her to escape. But escape from what? The whispers were everywhere now, coiling around her like serpents, each hiss promising despair. Mommy, choose. The words echoed through the void, taunting and vibrant, like a cruel reflection of her own voice. She didn't even know who they were anymore, her children, or the twisted things wearing their faces. She stumbled forward, propelled by a desperate instinct. Would they truly grasp her hand, or were they luring her into their infernal grasp? Suddenly, she felt a shift in the air. A chilling breeze caressed her cheek, a ghostly reminder of the world she had known. Emily. Jake. She cried again, her voice cracking, barely a whisper now, as if the shadows were swallowing her words as fast as she uttered them. And then, there it was, a flicker of light ahead, faint and trembling, like a star in the pitch-black sky. Hope surged through her. But could this be real? The warmth radiating from it felt surreal, and she found herself instinctively drawing closer. The laughter echoed again, this time mingled with cries of pain, a chilling symphony that tugged at her heartstrings. Mommy, it was a desperate, broken sound that splintered Claire. She couldn't tell if it was a plea or a curse, but it stirred something primal within her. She reached for the light, her palms outstretched, fingers trembling. As she stepped forward, the ground trembled beneath her, swirling with chaos, and she felt the world shift. The shadow figures morphed into ghastly specters around her. Hundreds of empty eyes stared back, mouths twisted into horrific grins, all calling out for something she could not name. With every step, they drew closer, clawing, reaching, their voices rising in an anguished crescendo. Mommy, please. Help us. She recoiled, diabolical images slashing through her mind. The last birthday party, the bright colors of a cake, laughter filling their small house. It felt like a lifetime ago, yet here they were so close, yet a world away. The fierce desire to protect surged through her veins like fire, igniting her resolve. But they weren't her children. They were shadows, torrid echoes of something lost. Claire's hands trembled, caught between two worlds, one of love and one of despair. "You're not my babies," she screamed, the declaration bursting forth like a dam breaking. The wailing intensified, a cacophony of despair mingled with fury. Shadows contorted, pulling together in a monstrous figure, towering and reeking of malice. It began to take shape, the ghoulish visage now unmistakable, its eyes twin voids aflame with insatiable hunger. "Join us, Claire," it rasped, voice dripping with darkness. "Never." Claire shouted with raw defiance, her heart drumming with purpose. She peered into the abyss of that wretched thing and drew the strength of every mother's love. Then she took a step back, and another, inching closer to the light that beckoned to her like the sun at dawn, radiating warmth and safety. "What do you want?" she demanded, voice filled with fury and uncertainty, her body shaking. The figure snapped forward, screaming as fiery tendrils lashed at her. "Everything you cherish. It will be ours." The light pulsed, brighter now, drawing her closer. Claire could feel its warmth clashing with the cold of despair. It flickered violently, barely holding on. "Mom! We're scared." The familiar voices broke through the chaos, reverberating in her mind, amplifying the fight within. But with every step she took backwards towards the light, the darkness lurched, stretching forwards as if it were alive, an abyss reaching for her, hungry and relentless. In that moment, Claire was faced with an ultimatum: embrace the light, or sacrifice herself to save what remained of her children. But could she truly save them from this horror? What if it was already too late? As the shadows coiled around her, she braced for impact, her decision teetering on the brink. The light flickered once more, fading, and with it, a desperate realization struck her. Mommy, choose. Time shuddered, reality warped, and Claire felt her grip on sanity slip. Shadows closed in, the abyss whispering promises of what could never be salvaged. Would she plunge into the dark for her love, knowing it might tether her forever? As she felt the earth crack beneath her feet, the question surged deep within her being: what price would she truly pay for love? Claire's heart hammered in her chest, a desperate drum echoing against the walls of her mind. The shadows closed in like a thick fog, wrapping around her body with a chill that gnawed at her resolve. Mommy, choose. The voices twisted the words into taunts, ripping apart the loving memories that filled her heart. They were calling her back into the darkness, the promise of her children hanging in the air between them. "No. You're not my children," Claire shouted, the sound tearing from her throat. It reverberated against the wall of shadows, pushing back against the evil that threatened to consume her. But they advanced, growing closer, their faces morphing into grim recreations of Emily and Jake. "Join us, Mommy. Forever." They chanted, their laughter a sickly sweet symphony that echoed in the hollowness of her soul. She struggled against the pull of their voices, fighting the gripping darkness that had settled like lead in her heart. "I love you," she cried out, the words sounding both fierce and fragile. Instinctively, she stepped toward the flickering light, seeking grasp at the warmth and safety it promised. The shadows screamed as if struck, recoiling momentarily from her love. "You're not them," she repeated, a mantra now, defiance pumping through her veins like wildfire, and then, in the fray of chaos and despair, the flickering light broke through a crack in the darkness, a singular thread of hope that called to her. "Please, don't leave us." The voices cried in unison, desperation mingling with something else, something sinister. Gathering all her strength, Claire forced herself to take another step toward the light. Each movement felt like walking through a storm, pushing against the winds of despair that clawed at her resolution. The darkness thrashed violently as she advanced, shadows shrieking in agony as if her defiance burned them. "I want to choose between you and something that isn't real." The words burst from her, more a proclamation than an admission. "I will never give in to you." With a final surge of determination, Claire lunged into the light's embrace. Light enveloped her, radiating warmth and love, wrapping around her like a protective cocoon, blinding and brilliant. The shadows shrieked, their screams weaving a tapestry of chaotic noise as they clawed at her. "Join us, Mommy, join us." But Claire pressed her hands over her ears and squeezed her eyes shut as the brilliance pulsated like a heartbeat, each thrum reverberating in her very core, driving out the darkness. Suddenly, the cacophony dissolved into silence, a profound tranquility washing over her as she fumbled her way through the light. It felt heavy yet soothing, a weight that lifted her above the pain and darkness. "Mommy?" A soft, familiar sound pierced through the haze. In a heartbeat, she opened her eyes. Before her, illuminated and full of life, stood Emily and Jake, warmth radiating from their bright smiles. "Mommy!" they called, arms wide open and inviting, innocence spilling forth from their small forms. A rush of relief flooded through Claire as she rushed to embrace them. The shadows fell away, retreating, their screeches fading into the distance like lost echoes. Joy surged through her heart as she held them tight, the love she thought lost now active and alive. "I thought I lost you." She wept, laughter mixing with her tears as they nestled into her. They were safe, they were real. She had chosen love over despair, and it had borne fruit. "I'll always find you," she whispered fiercely. Whatever had come for them would not prevail again. Together, they turned from the remnants of shadows, the darkness now banished behind them. The weight of fear lifted, and in its place was hope, a spark that felt unyielding and pure. As they stepped back into the world, they found the storm had ceased, daylight streaming in golden rays, illuminating the path ahead. Maplewood felt different, as if the very air had been cleared of an ancient curse. A community finally free, with a heart full of relief, Claire smiled at her children, feeling a warmth of safety embracing them. They had faced the storm and come out whole. "I'm here, and I always will be," she reassured them, heart swelling with certainty. "Neither shadows nor storms can take you from me." As they walked hand in hand into the dawn of a new day, Claire vowed to protect the innocence of childhood fiercely. What she had discovered, what she had embraced, was love, an unwavering force that would always push back against the darkness. So, wherever you are, honor that love. Stay vigilant. Before you go, listen carefully, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on our next exclusive stories that dive deeper into the darkness. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. You need to show your support. And please, flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this shocking conclusion. Don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who must see it. This is the moment to unite against the darkness. Don't wait even one more second.